Okay, so welcome to another session for Enrolled Agent Part 3. And the topic which we are going to discuss is in the very first half of this session, we are going to have a discussion, first of all. What are those other persons who may practice before the IRS on a limited basis, for which we had covered in the one of the sentence for a limited practice or limited basis? Because you might have, as such, remember this thing. You may have remember when we covered the persons who may practice before the IRS. So there was the category of actually the other persons who may be entitled to practice before the IRS with the IRS permission. So these persons we are going to have a discussion. The IRS may authorize any person to represent another person without enrollment. So that means even if you are not an enrolled agent, but still you may be allowed to practice before the IRS. So those individuals who are under suspension or disbursement from practice before the IRS may not even engage in limited practice before the IRS. For example, because of any reason, if the Department of IRS has suspended you for a temporary basis or disbarred you from practice, then you cannot practice before the IRS. Also, what are those listed persons in which representation by an individual without enrollment has been authorized? So now let's first of all talk about the very first thing, family. So an individual may represent without even any kind of monetary consideration in return. When we say without compensation, that means without anything in return, without monetary consideration there too. So an individual may represent without any compensation if he is an immediate family member. So that means immediate family member, when you talk about maybe your spouse, your children, so those are categorized under immediate family member. So these persons, they may be allowed to practice before the IRS, but that too on limited basis. Then is employee. An employee may represent his or her regular full-time employer to represent before the body, before the agency. Then partnership. Super duper important from examination perspective. This is really critical about the partnership, because 2 to 3 MCQs, they might be there. I'm not saying may, they might be there, 1 or 2% probability out of this, point number 3. So a general partner or a full-time partnership employee, they may represent the partnership firm, right? So when we talk about who are the partners the who may represent before the partnership, the first is the general partner, then is the full-time partnership employee. So these are the two types of partners who may represent before the IRS. Then when we talk about a company as such, a corporation, then an officer or a regular full-time corporate employee, they may represent the corporation. An officer or a regular full-time corporate employee, so they may represent the corporation. When we talk about the regular or full-time corporate employee, he may be a director, he may be a chief executive officer, chief accounting officer. So those are the persons who may represent before the IRS as far as representing on behalf of the company or the corporation is concerned there too. Now this sounds important and interesting as well. Fiduciary, very important from examination perspective, MCQ is concerned. When we talk about fiduciary, a trustee, a receiver, a guardian, or an administrator or an executor may represent the trust, receivership, guardianship, or estate. So that means who has immediately benefit, fiduciary benefit. So that person may represent. And when we talk about the next point, that's overseas, so that means an individual may provide representation to an individual entity if the representation takes place even outside the US. Point to be taken into consideration here is that even if you are outside United States of America, but you may still be allowed to represent any individual entity before the IRS, right? But here is an important catch, but that too on a limited basis. That's what we are studying over here. Then if we talk about student attorney or student CPA, so even a student can apply for, we are not saying he's allowed, he can apply, he can lodge an application The one who is still pursuing certified public accountant a permission to practice before the IRS by virtue of his or her status as a law student, that means in case of attorney, and a CPA student under section 10(7)(d) of circular 230. Point to be noted. Then when we talk about others, an individual may be authorized by the commissioner of the IRS to represent others in a particular matter. So that means if the authorization is given by the IRS department, and that too specifically by the commissioner, then an individual may be allowed to represent others in a particular matter, and that too on a limited basis. So whenever we talk about this thing, okay, any other person who may be allowed to practice before the IRS, whether on limited basis. So the authorization has to be given by whom? Super duper important question from MCQ perspective. The authorization has to be given by the commissioner of the IRS, by the commissioner of the IRS. Then who is subject to regulations in circular 230? So when we talk about the circular 230, who are the persons on whom this circular 230 is applicable? So any practitioner. So that means when we talk about the word practitioner, so that means it includes the certified public accountant, it includes enrolled agent, it includes, as such, attorney, then your enrolled actuary, enrolled retirement plan agent. So all those persons who are referred to as practitioner, who comes into the purview of practitioner, who for compensation. Now this is really important because out of this point number 6, 2 questions are basically asked in the examination for sure. 1 or 2 questions out of this 6 point only. So I just need your 100% focus over here for the next 5 to 10 minutes. 100% focus is required over here. So when we talk any practitioner, so that means it covers certified public accountant, enrolled agent, enrolled actuary, enrolled retirement plan agent. And this is important. He is given compensation in return. He's not doing it for, without something in return. He's given, he's given money on the whatever services he's rendering. And service, when we talk about what kind of service is rendered by him, so the service is he prepares or assists with the preparation. So that means whether he's directly involved in the preparation or even he's providing assistance. But assistance of what? All or substantially all of a tax return or claim of refund. So that means here is an important catch, my dear students. So if he is involved in the preparation of whole tax return, please, I would like you to, pen down at your end. This is important because 1 or 2 questions are for sure asked from this point number 6 only. Okay. When we talk about the preparation of all or substantially of all, so that means whole tax return in entirety, it comes under substantially all, and partial tax return, it comes under the preparation part. But it is not only covered with the tax return, even if for the claim of refund. So you can be referred to as you are a practitioner and circular 230 is applicable on you, right? Subject to the duties and restrictions related to the practice as well as subject to the sanctions for violation of circular 230. And my dear students, all the 230 in detail doesn't form part of the curriculum. Only the key points from the circular 230 ought to be remembered. But still, in our session for tomorrow, we'll be covering circular 230 in a detailed manner so that you understand each and everything in a very crisp manner. And I simply don't want to, as such, take any kind of risk with respect to the questions being asked in the actual examination. So we'll be covering circular 230 as well. Now let's proceed further. So who may not practice? Who may not practice before the IRS? So out of this topic, 2 questions are there for sure in the actual examination, because simultaneously I'm telling you what type of questions are important, what type of topics are important, because they'll fall you into a trap of who is authorized and who is not authorized in 2 to 3 questions for sure. So unauthorized persons, when we talk about these unauthorized persons, they may not practice before the IRS. First is the member of Congress may not practice before the IRS in connection with any matter for which he directly or indirectly agree to receive, or seeks any kind of compensation. So a member of Congress may not practice before the IRS. although he's receiving or agrees to receive any kind of compensation in return, but still he'll not be allowed to practice before the IRS. Then any officer, any employee of the US agencies, whether it is your legislative, executive, or judicial branch, whenever we talk about the legal system, so there are three level hierarchy: legislative, executive, and judicial branch. So if there is any officer or employee of the, you know, US legislative, executive, or judicial branch, or any kind of its agency, they are not allowed. Point is, they are not allowed to practice before the IRS. They are not allowed to practice before the IRS. Then here is an important exception: the representative of an immediate family member. So we covered here, if there is a representative of yours who is an immediate family member of yours, that person may be allowed before the IRS to practice on a limited basis. But here is an important catch: even if that immediate family member is an employee of the US agencies, then we need to focus over here the representative of an immediate family member, and he might be allowed by the IRS to practice before the IRS. So that means there are two conditions over here. Although we have covered any officer who is involved in the as such servicing, rendering services for the US departmental judiciary framework, but still, if that person is the immediate family member, then he may be allowed by the IRS to practice before the IRS. And at the same time, a personal fiduciary, maybe of a trust receiver or guardian, he may be allowed to practice before the IRS. Then comes a state employee who investigates, passes upon, or otherwise deals with the state tax matters, may not practice before the IRS. But the thing is, before the IRS, if she or he may disclose information applicable to the federal tax matters. Average important from the examination perspective, but still we need to focus on this point again. A state employee who conducts an investigation, he may not be allowed to practice before the IRS, because information, whatever information needs to be disclosed, it has to be with the federal tax government, federal level. Then an individual convicted of any offense involving dishonesty, breach of trust, may not practice before the IRS. So in a nutshell, what we can say over here is that, point number one, a member of the Congress, so we can, let's make a mnemonic over here. All right. Member of the Congress, we'll take it as C. Let me put in capital. Member of the Congress, C. Officer or employee of the US judiciary framework. So judicial system, J, CJ. Then if he's in, there's something federal tax matters, then at the state level, you are not allowed to practice before the IRS. And the last one is dishonesty or breach of trust. So we can take D for that. So it is easily remembered. Why am I creating a mnemonic over here? Because there will be as such a question for sure 101% in the actual examination, because of which I have made a mnemonic over here so that it is easy for you to, remember this one. CF, CJ, FD. FD can be easily remembered, FD, then CJ, CJFD. C is Congress, J for judicial, F for federal, and D for obviously dishonesty, CJFD. So CJFD are not allowed to practice before the IRS. Now let's proceed further. Limited practice. So, when we talk about the limited practice as such, any practitioner who is an enrolled return preparer, unenrolled return preparer, the focus is on unenrolled. That means if he's not a CPA, not an attorney, not an enrolled agent, then he may only practice the clients, who may represent the client before the, not all the officers, but only before revenue agents and customer service representatives. But this is for sure a person who is not enrolled, who is an unenrolled tax return preparer, he is not allowed to appeal, and he may only but still represent clients for the tax return for which he put the signature in the past. So he may represent the clients for the tax return. Then comes oversight of practice. Oversight of practice. What does that mean? Students, when we covered the situation we are in, We covered this thing. Some of the persons may be allowed to practice before the IRS, but who can practice before the IRS and how? By the approval of the commissioner of the IRS. So here is the commissioner of the internal revenue or his or her delegate. So that means even if the commissioner is not available at times, so he may give his power, he may delegate his power to someone else. So both are covered over here. The commissioner of the internal revenue or his or her delegate. Then oversight, as the name itself suggests, obviously you have to lodge an application for enrollment, then makes inquiries representing matters under the commissioner jurisdiction. Obviously, if you are seeking approval from the commissioner of the IRS, so within his jurisdiction, you can make the inquiries. Then institutes and provides for the conduct of disciplinary proceedings relating to practitioners and perform duties which are as such mentioned and prescribed by the Secretary of the Treasury. Then comes an individual who for compensation prepares or assists with the preparation of all or substantially all. This we have covered earlier, but the point is you need to have a preparer tax identification number and it must be renewed annually. Okay, now let's discuss some of the MCQ also in this session only, but you will be the one who will be answering it, so be active in the chat box. So let's cover the MCQ for enrolled agent part 3 unit number 1.1. So be ready, because whatever explanation I'm hereby giving to you on a daily basis, it becomes your core responsibility to cover it end to end. Let the screen be loaded. Okay. Let me create a new one. Let's create a study session. Okay. Ready? Going to create it. Practice before the IRS. Authority to practice, because so far in unit 1.1 we have covered authority to practice. Who is authorized to practice before the IRS? So let's get started. So there are 17 questions in it, and in this very particular second half of the session we are going to cover all these questions. All the best, because stay active in the chat box for the answers. So here is the question number 1 in front of you. Identify the individual below who is not eligible to practice before the IRS. Not eligible. And none of the individuals are under suspension or disbarment, but still is not authorized. Yes. Give your answers in the chat box, please. Are you sure? Enrolled actuary. Actuary, with respect to he has limited right, he may be allowed to practice, he is allowed to practice before the IRS. Just give emphasis on this. Certified financial planner. Why? Because we already covered here, na? Enrolled actuary he may practice before the IRS with limited powers. But did we cover certified financial planner anywhere? Did we cover it? Because the question says not eligible to practice before the IRS. So did we cover certified financial planner? We do not cover it anywhere in this section. Let's proceed towards the next one. Which of the following individuals qualifies as a practitioner under Circular 230? Correct answer. Give me the correct answer. Okay. So this you are giving the correct answers. It's applicable on attorney, certified public accountant, and enrolled actuary, all. Okay. Now concentration and just take 1 to even 1.5 minutes for this. So you have to identify the true statement with respect to the limited practice of an unrolled return preparer who completed the IRS AFSP. Annual filing season program participant is given limited rights because he's not fully enrolled to clear the papers and for the license and all. So you need to identify the true statement with respect to the question of limited practice of AFSP. Yes, give your answer. I'm waiting for your answer. One student has already given the answer. Just give me the answer for the other ones. Okay, so the answers have started flooding. Collection functions can they be performed by the annual filing season program participant? Are you sure? Let me just mark it. This is the correct answer. Now let me just give you the reasoning for the same. One by one. Okay, so you have given the correct answers for this. So there is no need to as such give the explanation, but still, why D is not correct? Because an enrolled return preparer who completed the IRS AFSP is only permitted to represent taxpayers before the customer service representative and other, but here they have mentioned before the examination and even collection functions. So he cannot perform the collection function. So this one is false. An unenrolled return preparer may represent the taxpayer for any year. The taxpayer provides authorization whether or not the unenrolled preparer the return in question. So again, with the authorization, so he should have actually prepared the return. So they are like an unenrolled return preparer may represent the taxpayer for any year, not for any year, but for the year in question only. So that's why it is false. Then why EA is not the correct answer? If authorized by the taxpayer, an unenrolled return preparer who completed the IRS AFSP can sign consents to extend the statutory period for assessment or collection of tax, but unenrolled return preparer cannot collect the tax. So this is the one, he cannot even receive the refund check. So this is the correct answer. Let's go to the other one. Yes. All of the following types of individuals may practice before the IRS except. This one sounds very simple. Give the answers. I'm waiting in the chat box. Who is not allowed to practice before the IRS? You have to figure it out because the word uses except. So all of the following types of individuals may practice before the IRS except. Yes, certified financial advisors are not allowed. Next one. Which of the following is not practicing before the Internal Revenue Service? Yes. Give me the answers for this one as well. Which of the following is not practicing before the IRS? Okay, so the correct answers have started flooding. Why? So you mentioned, Sudhir mentioned D. So Sudhir, I have marked D. But do you know why D is not the correct answer? Because they have mentioned which of the following is not practicing before the IRS. Because here they are asking what is covered in practicing before the IRS. So representing at a taxpayer at conference, hearing, or meeting with the IRS, that's in general, right? But they are asking which is not referred to as practice. So this one, if you are representing someone as a witness, so it is not referred to as practice, because anyone, even AFSP, unenrolled return preparer, may perform this function. So it is not referred to as practice before the IRS. Is it clear to you? Is it clear now? Okay. Next one. With regard to category of individuals who may practice before the IRS, which of the following statements is true? You have to identify the true statement in context of this topic as to who may practice before the IRS. Only enrolled agents, attorney, or CPAs, no, because there are other categories as well. Under the limited practice provisions in Circular 230, an individual who is under suspension or disbarment from practice may not engage in limited practice before the IRS. This could be the correct answer, but let's explore others as well. Now, what about the C and D? Just read it out and give me the correct answer. Give me the correct answer. I'm waiting. You have to identify who may be referred to as practice before the IRS. Which of the following statements is true? This one. Why this is correct? Because they may not allowed to practice before the IRS. Who is under suspension or disbarment, straight away, they are not allowed to practice before the IRS. But the point here to be taken into consideration is that why this option number A is not the correct one, because they have mentioned only enrolled agents, but there are other people as well who are given specific powers to practice before the IRS. So this is not the correct answer there too. When we talk about the option number C, an individual who is not an enrolled agent, not an attorney, not a CPA, who signs a return having been prepared it for the taxpayer, may with proper authorization from the taxpayer appears as taxpayer representative with or without the taxpayer at a conference before an appeal officer with respect to the tax liability of the taxpayer for the taxable period or period covered by that return. Why is it false? Give me the reason why C is not the answer. Come on, just ponder over, just think it and please tell me. Why C is not the correct answer? Why is it false? Because students, an individual who is not an enrolled agent, not an attorney, not a CPA, who signs a return having it prepared for the taxpayer may with proper authorization from the taxpayer appears as taxpayer representative with or without the taxpayer at the conference or before appeal officer. So the point here, important catch, is appeal. Can he appeal? The one who is not an enrolled agent, not a CPA, not an attorney. So can he appeal? We covered it in that table also. Can he appeal? So the answer is not at all. Okay. Because of which it's not the correct answer. So far we have covered till MCQ number 6 and we'll be covering it prospectively. MCQ number 7 onwards in our tomorrow's session. And as far as the previous 2 lectures and this session is concerned, so the course will be created and you will be given the access for the same. Okay. So just make sure you revise study unit 1.1 positively by today itself. And if it is feasible at your end, then just make sure you start reading. Just give a thorough read to 1.2 as well, so that after covering all the MCQs in tomorrow's session, when we'll be starting from 1.2, things are easy for you to understand. Okay. So that's all for this session today.